How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
You guys keep up the good work, man. Podcasts are the way of the future.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Thank you for downloading the latest edition of DocNJock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? I'm excited to record this podcast.
Happy VD. You ever got VD from a Valentine's Day?
Nope.
No?
You?
Sure? Let's just say I've been to the clinic quite a few times, and I've had to be put on medication a couple, so.
Word on the street was you got VD on Saturday. I mean, you're free to load up. I mean, look, I know the radio guys. Look, I know the radio guys have to go there with ones, but if you would have just called your boy, I would have slipped you a couple fives, and you would have had a much better time.
No, I got a great story about that night. So what you're referencing is, if you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.
Where was the invite, bro?
Sorry, dude. I was hammered. I was so drunk on Saturday. Me and my cousin ended up going to the Duel in the D, and we left. We went to another bar, and then I was like, hey, you want to go to the strip club? And we found our way to the Coliseum. And shout out to Tony Jackson, who's a bouncer over there, a really good friend of mine. Played hockey with him many, many years. He's an awesome dude. He is as thick as peanut butter when you pull it out of the freezer, not the fridge, out of the freezer. He is that thick. He's a big, monstrous dude. Probably all of like 5'7", 5'8", but he is built like an angry pit bull. Anyways, Tony was working, got us in for free. It was awesome. We ended up getting actually a great spot at the stage, because that's where I like to sit. I don't really like to pay for a booth because I'm cheap and there's no point. I don't want to go pay for the skybox. My cousin loves paying for the skybox. I don't want to pay for that because I'm cheap and it does nothing for me. The fun I get, I don't enjoy lap dances, and I don't enjoy really any extracurriculars in the back. Not from them. It's just not my deal. I enjoy sitting at the stage, and I enjoy putting dollars in G-strings. And sometimes, depending on how she is, the dollar bill exchange can become very, very fun. Depends on what she's up for and where I'm at. Anyways, I enjoy doing that. That's kind of my thing. So there's an image of me sitting at the stage with a stack of singles. And I was putting somebody through nursing school. I don't know who, but I was putting somebody through it. Anyways, I was hammered out of my mind. I spent way too much money this weekend, and I'm regretting it right now as I have a speeding ticket I have to pay for again. Like, I like going there for the entertainment. I like sitting in front of the stage. Actually, you know what? The thing I really enjoy is talking to the girls and just trying to figure out why do you dance on a pole? What went so wrong in your life? You know, this is the psychologist in me. You know, I'm putting on your hat and I'm wearing your shoes. How did you get here? Why are you here? Do you really enjoy what you do? I find it fascinating when some of the chicks there have nothing wrong with them. Come from a good home. They've got, some of them have kids. Some of them have a husband, which I find really, really weird and odd, because I don't know. Like, I'm a pretty secure man, but I don't know if I could handle my wife dancing at a strip club, or my girlfriend for that matter, or just some girl I'm messing with. I don't think I could handle it. Anyways, they just do it because they enjoy it. And that blows my mind. Like, anything else in the world you could do, but you enjoy dancing on a pole and taking your clothes off while drunk dudes shove dollar bills in your G-string.
Well, because
I find it amazing.
You know, the psychology, because I can't say specifically, but I've had a couple clients that I've worked with that talk about it, and it's just sometimes the dynamic of the money in the relationship. Whereas, you're going to work, let's say, for example, for $12 an hour, and that's 8 hours, right? Let's say that's $120 max, okay, if my math is really off. Whereas you could make $1,000 a night on an
Your
average
math is
Friday.
off, but yes.
Yeah. With taxes and things like that, gross, and then you come down taxes. That's like $80 you go to work for, right? $80 for one day of work. And sometimes when you stand there and deal with customers or you crunch numbers at a computer, people realize, you know what? That's $80 for all day of my time. Go somewhere, maybe for 4 hours. Maybe, find that one person, that lonely gentleman that's been through some things, and you find that one guy that's going to donate, the sugar daddy. That's 2, 3, 4 G's a week, potentially, that you can live for someone. Because you got to remember, the people that are really successful in life, they can pull in $500,000, $600,000 a year. They have no problem dropping 30 on a young lady if they give them attention. And that's where the hustle is. And I've shared stories and heard things where these girls, they find someone, they kind of, give them that attention, maybe hang out with them outside of the club, and they're pulling in 6 figures from one dude. And they potentially, some that are really gung-ho about it, will pull in 2 or 3 sugar daddies at a time, and they get their apartments paid for, they get stuff, and they're like, how can you look at the dynamic? But in the end, if you decide that's where you want to go, you have to live with the consequences. And it's not easy. There are psychological tolls. It's not all easy to do that job. And people will freely admit it. Yeah, they want to do it, but for the money, but they sacrifice things. Family relationships, when they decide to finally do and quit that, it's hard to transition back into real life, because then let's say, for example, you're making 200 G's, just hanging out with someone, and you got to go back to make 50 G's a year. It's just hard.
It's hard. Like,
I'll tell you this.
You know what? You'll see it with porn stars.
Yeah.
Like Lisa Ann is a perfect example, right?
They go back.
I love Lisa Ann. I think she's great.
They go back.
Huge fan of her work.
They go back.
All right? But Lisa Ann just recently got out of the business only to go right back into the business.
It's hard because
it's all about the money.
How do you make 40 G's a year when you know you're leaving a couple hundred for doing your own schedule? You show up at 8 o'clock at night. You can, so it's just a tough life, but it's something where back in the day, man, it was a fun time to go there and things like that.
That was your spot. Like
it was good. I used to go to Players a lot.
Did somebody tip you off that I was there? Because I know I've gone there before.
When I know,
and you get tipped off that I'm there.
No, bro. You're pretty much a standard guy. When you go out, you usually end up there.
I do.
You go out 4 or 5 times a year. Usually 2 or 3 of them you go there.
I do.
So I had a feeling. When I saw you going to Duel in the D, I'm like, oh boy, it's gonna be a fun night. Especially when you found out that at Little Caesars you could go to the bar and have fun with that,
dude.
It's great.
We had great tickets for that, by the way.
Yeah.
My Aunt Patty hooked it up.
So you got to see the club there.
Yes. We were part of the Motor City Club.
Yes.
It was nuts. We had our own private pissers.
Nice, huh?
We had our own bar.
Nice.
We had a little stash, little area where you get some snacks and food. It was an amazing setup. Like, I've been to LCA a couple times, and I've not been privileged enough to get those high-end, high-quality seats to where you can see what everybody kind of talks about and why the seats always look so empty. I get it now. I totally get it now.
It's nice.
There's big screen TVs everywhere in there. It's almost more fun
to hang out back there.
To watch.
It's a little club bar.
Yeah. It's nuts, man. Honestly, the bathrooms were so beautiful. You could go and eat your hot and ready off the toilet and not feel like you're dirty.
Exactly.
It's
and
crazy.
I think for really, and in the end, it's true. In most cases, if you're somebody that comes from means and you have expendable income, spend the money and go do things well. And I think that's what fans probably should do, is that instead of going to maybe 10 games and sitting up top and going to many, just save up for one nice experience. Mm-hmm. Save up a couple $100 and just go once a year, go down, get good seats, hang out, and enjoy the experience. I think it's way better, because in the end, most of the time, the experience in the regular seats is not going to be just hanging out at home with your own stuff. But once or twice a year, save up some money, $200, $300, $400, dedicate it to an event, go out, have a good time, a concert, then followed up by an event at LCA, you'll have a good time.
Yeah.
You felt special. It's cool.
I had such a great time. I can't put over how awesome it really was.
And I think that's kind of the disconnect, too, is people realize, man, the average Joe is probably priced out of LCA to have a good time. And that's a tough feeling when you alienate your fans like that.
We looked at how much you could buy tickets on the secondary market, on StubHub for. And for a game against Chicago, for one seat in that area.
150?
No, more than that.
Yeah.
It was like 185 for a game against Ottawa. Mind you, Ottawa is like the second worst team in the NHL. They're the first worst team in the NHL. Detroit's the second worst team in the NHL. Those tickets were going for 150. That's crazy for one seat. And then factor in that you got to pay whatever StubHub's tax is.
Yeah,
You've got to pay
fees.
whatever the fees are. So now you're looking at a ticket that's $150. It'll probably be $175 when it's all said and done. And you're not going to a game alone. Who goes to a game alone?
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? You're now paying over $350 for one night? Holy, that doesn't even count your food. That doesn't count your drink. That doesn't count any of that. You're right. LCA probably does price people out. Prices the true fan out, at least.
And for Pistons fans, they just have totally given up. And we're going to talk about the Pistons. You know, we've been definitely negative when you look at the trade deadline, when you look at the expectations for the team. A lot of fans, by and large, like we've said in previous podcasts, haven't bought in. They don't believe in the direction of the squad. But if we do take a look at what the Pistons are doing, their schedule is easy. They have an opportunity to qualify, maybe even being under 500, to maybe even qualify as the 6th or 7th seed. So stay tuned, second half of the podcast. We'll try and be positive, so stay tuned. The second half of the podcast, we will try to be positive and maybe look at an angle where maybe this season can have some success if they do make the postseason. We'll talk about that in the second half. But the Detroit Lions made news this week, and it was interesting because a lot of factors have played into it, in that Bob Quinn and the brass there at the Lions had a chance to talk to season ticket holders. And that coincided with the decision that was made earlier this week in terms of Kareem Hunt. And I definitely want to talk to you about the Lions and also looking at some of the players that are on the roster, because a lot of people are going to be looking at the draft, free agency, but I think it's also worthwhile to look at the roster that they currently have in terms of who's going to be counted on to play well for the Lions. And you look at the situation with the Lions, I want to start with this. I am having a hard time truly believing as a fan of that organization that they are all in for winning. Okay? And that's why I'm not a season ticket holder. That's why after the Matt Millen era, I cut off my financial contribution to that organization. I'm a fan that watches. I don't have a B team, but I just find it hard to believe that they're doing every single thing possible to build a winner. And here's why it's frustrating, because that's what it takes to build a winner. Bro, there are organizations that will do some things that are shady to win. Okay, so you can't just say, well, I just want to surround my squad with good guys and hope to win. That's a blessing if you can do it. But if there are 20 other teams that are willing to go out and get talented individuals that might have some character flaws, it just makes you feel like you're racing for third place. And as a fan, that's the part that makes you feel bad, is I don't want to enter into the race knowing that my ceiling is third place on the podium. You train, you work hard with the notion that maybe if everything goes right, you could stand there and win the medal, have your national anthem be played. But it's basically, to use a metaphor, it'd be like me going to be a cyclist and saying, I'm not going to dope. And being like, yes, and trying to sell it to everybody. I'm going to be the number one cyclist in the world. The first question someone's going to ask you is, hey, are you going to dope? Are you going to, do some things? Be like, no, I'm going to do it all clean. They're going to look at you and be like, okay, go ahead, shorty. Try, handle your business. And they're going to look and they're going to be like, he has no chance.
Right.
Because the majority of cyclers are doping. And so to talk about the Lions, it's just that going into it now, you realize, okay, they have a quarterback that they like. They have a running back that they like. They have a defense that's being built. But the most talented individuals in the league are not playing for the Lions. So right now, sitting here in February, not talking about the draft or free agency and things like that, I don't think the Lions are racing for first place. They're just racing to be able to one day say, we broke the streak and we got our second playoff win. Let's talk about that. They want to talk about and cease having people talk about how bad they are. They're racing to get to the postseason and get a win or two. And I'm racing to try to be the Lombardi Trophy champion year after year after year after year. When you don't go out there and sign a guy like Kareem Hunt, look, is he a bad dude? Yes. Is he a guy that would have to show me that he's doing extensive therapy and guarantees that he's not going to do this ever again? Yes. But I'm not in the business of evaluating what a guy's going to do in the community. I just want to see, finally, after all the years of heartbreak, the Lions go out there and make a move like this. And then you start to judge a guy like Bob Quinn, right? And you realize he's probably got his hands tied behind his back. He would probably never even inquire because he knows, I can't bring in this guy. The owner is a woman. How am I going to do that? I can't even sell it. So either he has no power or he's dumb enough not to try and bring this guy in. So you look at it and you go, how are you going to believe that the Lions are going to win? I can't. I mean, you can be positive. You can say, yeah, they're going to score touchdowns. Yeah, they're going to win, probably more than 6 games in 2019. But I just can't believe right now that they're in the class of squads that can win. And it's frustrating because had they signed Kareem Hunt, dude, I would have been dancing. I would have been like, damn, bro, this is good. Finally, something different. And so that's where it is that, you and I have talked about it for well over 6 years. And prior to the podcast, for the Lions to win, it's probably going to take a miracle. And part of that miracle is acquiring 4, 5, 6 talented guys to overcome what's going on in the league. And so it's just frustrating. I'm sitting here devastated and kind of bummed out that a talented individual who was $1 million, nothing. His contract is incentive laden. He gets suspended for all of 2019 if you're scared. No problem. Restricted free agent. You keep him and you trade him for, if you want to just flip him, you want to buy something low and sell high, you just bring him in and you can announce it. Look, you know what? Behind the scenes, we want to see what this guy can do. We want to take a chance. But behind the scenes, you never were intending to play him. Flip him for a second rounder. Do something that's different to change what's going on with the Lions. They just don't do it. It's just frustrating. It's really frustrating to know that a piece was out there, a cheap piece was out there, and he's not part of the Lions. He's part of the Browns. Damn, bro. Damn.
What is the best organization in the National Football League over the last, say, 20 years? Which team is that?
Because obviously it's the New England Patriots.
Right. Let's not act or bury our heads in the sand like the New England Patriots haven't gone out there and done some
questionable
things. Yeah. I mean, we've got Spygate, we got Deflategate, just to name 2 right off the bat. So, again, you sometimes have to do certain things to help an organization win. And the Detroit Lions are trying to mirror themselves after the Patriots. They carry themselves, especially this front office and this coaching staff, they carry themselves like they've actually won something, like they've actually done something. You guys haven't won 6 Super Bowls. You guys aren't Bill Belichick. You guys don't have Tom Brady. So for the arrogance to come down the way it does and to come across the way it does, it is biting at the least. But to not go out and grab a guy like Kareem Hunt because we want to have good people here, I don't understand. I don't get it, because the National Football League is a league that basically goes out and grabs barbarians. That's what this is. This is modern day. You going to the Coliseum in Rome and watching gladiators basically bash each other's heads in for fun. That's what football is. So you're going to take essentially a modern day gladiator and you're going to say, hey, you can be a gladiator, but you just can't do it on your own time. It doesn't really work for me. I watched the video with Kareem Hunt, and this might get me in trouble, and some of you might not like this, and if you do, you don't. I don't care. You can let me know. It doesn't matter. We can have a discussion about it because I really don't care. I watched the video. What Kareem Hunt did, I don't really think was all that bad. I really don't. And when you read more into it, Kareem Hunt was upset because she was underage. She was drunk. She was in his hotel room. This is a guy who is trying to protect his livelihood. This is a guy who is trying to protect what he does and not get himself in a situation. He ended up finding himself in a situation, but this is a guy who said, hey, you need to get out of my hotel room right now. And this drunk girl was like, no, I'm going to stay here and party. And he was like, you got to go. And she's like, no, I'm going to stay here and party. And don't act like you've never been so upset or you've been in such a rage where it's taken multiple people to hold you back or to calm you down or to talk you off that ledge, because this guy got there because she would not get out of his room. I've been there. I've been there plenty of times. It happens. I think the worst thing in that video was he threw his buddy, and when he threw his buddy fell into her. And when his buddy fell into her, she fell into the elevator, the corner press of the elevator, and knocked herself silly. The kick, honestly, guys, don't act like you've never even kicked your little sister like that. I walked up to my little sister and I pushed my little sister over with a foot before. That's what that was. You act like he hauled off and he was going soccer style, trying to kick a penalty kick to win the World Cup. It's not what it was. It wasn't. The aggression and the rage that you've seen, that's what has you shook. That's what has you upset. But remember, this is a guy who goes out there every single Sunday, and he's got 11 other guys who are trying to take his head off all the time on every single play. This guy is a gladiator at the highest regard, and he's one of the best at his position. And you mean to tell me that because he got upset, because he didn't want to get in trouble, because some underage girl came back to his hotel room and she was drunk, that he has no right to tell her to get the hell out of his room? Come on now. Think about it. Think about that. If that was you, you go out to the club. You're having a good time with your boys, and you guys are going to go back, and a couple girls want to come back and follow and hang out with you. You're just like, yeah, okay, cool, no problem. You get back to your hotel room, and you find out that one of them is 17. This girl is probably a little bit older, but you find out one of them is 17, and she's drunk. What are you doing? You need to tell her to get the hell out of the room. Because one, you can go to jail because she's a minor. Two, if she claims rape, if she claims that you tried to sexually assault her, if she claims any sort of violence, that's going to look real bad on you, and good luck trying to get out of it. All right? What Kareem Hunt did doesn't look good. But for an organization to hold their nose up and to act like they're above this, above going out and getting an elite running back, getting a player for essentially the league minimum, and who the hell cares if he can only play for 4 games? Who cares if his suspension is 12 games long? Who the hell cares? That means you're getting an elite talent back for the final 4 games of your season. And how many times have we as Lions fans seen the Lions lose or be prevented from getting to the playoffs because of those final 4 games of the season? I don't know. I don't have enough fingers and toes to count. That's how many times it's happened. So don't act like you're above this and, we need good players. When your head coach possibly raped a chick. I mean, what are we talking about here? You can't have it both ways. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth.
Yeah, and that's what they do. And you got to remember too, LeGarrette Blount's no choir boy.
Exactly. This is a guy who socked another player on the field after a loss when he was at Boise State.
And look, a current player, now he's not a guy that's high on the depth chart, a current player went out to New York and caused a ruckus.
Yeah.
He's still on the team.
Yep.
How long does an investigation take to figure out, did this guy punch cops? Was he out of control? He's still on the roster. You would think that if something
You want to have good people, though. You want to have good people.
You want to have good people.
This is the thing. This is what bothers me about the Detroit Lions, is they try to have this holier than thou, this I'm so mighty approach, and they try to carry themselves back to that arrogance I was talking about. They carry themselves with this arrogance like, no, we're going to do things the right way here. You guys are just as dirty as everybody else. The league itself, the NFL, is a league that is built upon the backs of bad men. That's what it is. When you really break it down and you cut right to the heart of it, the league is built upon the backs of awful guys. The guy that you like, the guy that you hold above all else, he's probably a scumbag. I like Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis, finger quotations, probably killed a man. Do you know what I'm saying? And Ray Lewis is celebrated. So don't come at me with this noise like, we want good people, and what Kareem Hunt did was awful. I seen the video. It wasn't that horrible. Now, Kareem Hunt getting into a situation at a Put-in-Bay vacation spot where he punched another man in the face. I don't know exactly what transpired there, but that's a strike against you. And Kareem Hunt getting into it at what looked like a strip club or a nightclub probably isn't a good look either. So now you've got 3 strikes against you. I get it. This guy might have some anger issues. You can work on that. I know a psychologist who can help out if they need a number. I'm sitting across from the guy. He can talk to you. Believe me, I had my own anger issues. I had a lot of them. Not so much today. Why? Because I went to therapy. It helps. You can work through some things. It's possible to be rehabilitated. I'm not great, but I'm not flying off the handle like I used to.
So you look at the Detroit Lions situation and you just realize, okay, that's how they're going to be built. Bob Quinn definitely is not this trailblazing general manager. It just seems like he's a guy that wants to keep the checks coming in, and he wants to sell that the organization is trying to win and trying to win it all. But it's just impossible. I don't see a pathway for the Lions to acquire enough talent in order to do the job, especially in the NFC where teams are getting better. You got, teams that actually hit on draft picks a little bit more. I mean, how are you going to go up against Drew Brees with what they're going to be trying to do in 2019? I mean, they're going to have so much anger and frustration that it could carry them literally for an entire season. How are you going to compete in your own division with Aaron Rodgers and the Bears, who loaded up with talented individuals on defense? I'm just thankful Kareem Hunt didn't end up with the Vikings or with the Bears. And you look at now, Antonio Brown, he might end up in the division. There's some talks maybe the Bears or the Vikings could get in on the sweepstakes. So you look at it and you realize that talent wins, and sometimes the talent are not good guys. But you have to, figure it out. And so you look at the Lions and you realize, okay, they're going to try to do it with this approach. But if you ask a lot of fans after realizing what they did, I don't think that they're confident that they're going to be a winning organization anytime soon.
I don't know if there's a team out there that has won a Super Bowl, including this year's New England Patriots team, that is full of choir boys.
It's not happening.
Do you know what I'm saying?
That's going to be a consistent winner.
Yeah. I get that you want to have good guys. I understand that. It looks good for your team, looks good for your city. It'll make Martha feel good. I get it. But sometimes, and this is what the league has been based on, and you see this even in high school, right? Where more talented players tend to get away with a little bit more. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just telling you it's the way it is, and it's that way because they perform. They perform better than whoever else. I wasn't a great athlete in high school. I was decent. I wasn't awesome by any means. There were people who screwed up way worse than I've ever screwed up, and they got a way less penalty because they were better than me. They produced on the field more than I did. And I got it. I understood it. You understand this at a young age. Okay, cool. I'm not that good, so I don't get away with as much. Just the way it is. It's just how life works.
So then other season ticket holders asked other questions and things like that. And one question that was asked is, would the Lions be interested in partaking in the HBO series Hard Knocks? And obviously Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia do not at all. They were hyping up the Oakland Raiders saying John Gruden would be great. They don't want to release information. They don't want to be part of that show. And it's a great show for those that take advantage of it. I think the Detroit Lions, if they were actually forced to do it, would definitely make it a big PR stunt. They would definitely highlight, they would take the cameras where Matthew Stafford does charity work. It would be Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, hanging out with Martha and having this talk about we want to win and we're passionate, and it would be all staged.
Yeah.
So I don't want the Lions
There'd be
to be
no authenticity.
No authenticity at all. And I just say to myself, you know what? In that case, if it was going to be similar to how the Browns did it, where there was a little bit of insight, a little bit of drama there in terms of Baker Mayfield with some personality, with some of the players there. You had Jarvis Landry throwing down on his teammates. It was interesting. Mm-hmm. Others, I don't think the Lions would be a good candidate, and I don't think they're going to be chosen. I think the Raiders should be the team.
I think the Raiders will probably get picked. I think the Lions would be absolutely boring.
It wouldn't be good.
Would be horrible to watch them, just because, similar to what you said, it would all be staged. Nothing would be real. I would have to see Matt Stafford opine about how he does all this charity work. Then I'd have to deal with Kelly Stafford. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to hear her.
You know what? Let's look short term here.
There's nobody entertaining on this team. Darius Slay is the only entertaining guy, and I can listen to him talk all day long because he sounds like Cardi B.
Here's the thing, though. If, the 5% chance that it does happen, okay, you're a reporter. You cover the Detroit Lions. Mm-hmm. There's a chance that the stars of the show could be the media, who go out there and basically clown on the Lions. I mean, literally, you'd have to just go out there. If HBO signs on for the Lions to do the job, you got to go out there every single day. You got to go out there and try and get yourself over. Seriously, you go out there and you ask Matthew Stafford, it's year 11, time's ticking. You think it's going to be, your time? You ask Matt Patricia, so, are you one of the good guys? Or what is a good guy characterized? You start making noise.
Then you get cardboard box answers, though. I mean, I get what you're saying, and you're right.
No, you know what?
This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for guys like Kyle Meinke,
to
Dave
get over
Burkett,
the media.
Right,
get over now.
Right.
No,
Carlos Monterez.
It's not you.
The sultan of all things negative.
They won't probably show you asking the question,
No,
but
you'll be there.
The 2% chance they're sitting around the media room and you get a glimpse and they're like, all the coaches are like, that MFer Adam comes in here and thinks he's hot shit. What station is he on? And you get your name talked about on HBO. Yep. That's how you get over, is to just try to make a name for yourself off of the show.
You know what it reminds me of? Have you watch NFL films, right?
Yeah, it's great.
I love NFL
the music
films.
behind is great. Great show.
Absolutely great.
Yeah.
They did this thing with the Lions, and they did this old school cut of Jamie Samuelson.
Yeah, it was big head.
Yes, from back when he was at DFN.
Exactly.
It was so long ago.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just this.
We all remember that stuff.
Yeah, it was an archive piece of history talking about how awful the Lions are.
Exactly.
But that's what you would do. That's it. You have an opportunity now. You have a mode. You have a a vehicle to get yourself over.
You know, maybe there's a nice young Polish producer that's a female. You slip her a couple clips of the podcast where we're ranting and raving, and they maybe just air it out where it's like the Detroit Lions in Allen Park, and then there's us screaming, "The Lions suck! What are they doing?" They're like, "Who is this?" DocNJock podcast.
Why did you got to be Polish?
I think that's the only person that would maybe even start to talk to you. You know what I mean? We have to have, I don't think you're just going to walk up. I think you're a shy guy. You're not going to just walk up to someone and just be like, "Hey, you're a producer of HBO." So you got to have it in somewhere.
You're right. I am. I'm a little bit more reserved when it comes to those things than you are.
Exactly. So, but it's not going to happen.
Oh, God, it has to be a Polish girl.
Hey,
do you want some good pierogi? I know a place. Let's go get some city chicken.
Exactly.
I'll take you to Hamtramck. Let's go.
Exactly. We got to find a way to get over.
All right. Speaking of getting over, if you could ask Bob Quinn one question, and he has to answer it, what are you going to ask him?
See, here's the problem with Bob Quinn is that he's super professional, super tight-lipped. I mean, when he answered the question about Kareem Hunt, he didn't use his name, that player, and he went super professional. He said, look, every team had a chance to sign him through the waivers, and we could have got him cheaper, which I think pissed me off more because you could have got Kareem Hunt off the waiver wire. You could have picked him up off the wire, paid him $500K, you had him for a year. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. But if he was going to be candid, I want to know about his working relationship with Martha Ford. How much do you talk to her, and are you allowed to just unabatedly unilaterally make decisions? Otherwise, you have to then follow up with, okay, then why don't you bring in Kareem Hunt? Why didn't you do it? Because if he actually had the idea to do it, and behind the scenes Martha told him no, then you could give him a little bit of credit and say, okay, you know what, Martha is the final straw and the biggest reason why this team is not winning. Because right now, Bob Quinn looks like a loser. Bob Quinn looks like somebody has no power, and he's a puppet. And I would want to ask him, does Martha Ford dictate to you what's going on in terms of the roster, or anybody else that's in the Ford organization? Is there an outside entity that's restricting you? Because it doesn't make sense why you don't have a guy like Kareem Hunt here. That's what I want to ask him is, what's it really like to work for the Fords?
Mine would be, what are your real thoughts on what transpired all of last season, including Matt Patricia in the rape allegations, Matt Patricia underperforming week one, Matt Patricia, a lot of this surrounds Matt Patricia and his performance because, again, remember, they're boys. Matt Patricia under-delivering on a season when the previous season you said 9-7 is unacceptable, and this team performed even worse with a similar roster. And
I like it. Bob Quinn, keep it real. What are your thoughts about 2018?
Right. And what are your thoughts about Matt Stafford? And do you really believe he's a guy who can get you over, especially after the season like 2018? So encompassing everything from 2018, he has to answer it truthfully. And there's a lot there because last season was kind of a mess. So there's a ton to chew on there that I think would just be so interesting. And if you could actually get his real thoughts on it, it would be so much fun to just chew on and digest for weeks, especially the hiring of Matt Patricia in the rape allegations. Like, how that blindsided you, or did you know about this? There's so much there. It's like a giant onion that you're just waiting to peel off the layers and let it bloom. So that's kind of where I would be at. Going into next season, I know we just talked about 2018, and Kerryon Johnson was a huge part of 2018. Do you have any concerns about Kerryon Johnson going into this next season?
A couple of the players that I wanted to highlight with you was Darius Slay and Kerryon Johnson, because these are guys that are going to be, respectively, on the offense and defense, tasked with being leaders. I'm concerned about Kerryon Johnson. I'm not so much concerned about Darius Slay. I think he's now established himself as a Pro Bowler. He has enough belief in himself, enough swagger, that he believes and can execute being one of the top players in the secondary in the entire NFL. So I'm okay with Darius Slay. I'm confident that he can handle the job and can contribute. It seems like that he's been able to contribute at the level that makes him a Pro Bowler. So Darius Slay, I think, is good. If you want to highlight someone that's positive, someone that turned the corner, because he's highlighted the fact that early on he was benched his rookie season, and everybody was like, oh man, he's a bust, he's getting torched. But the last couple years, he's starting to develop that swagger, starting to take to defensive schemes across multiple coaches. So I like what Darius Slay brings to the table. Now, a guy like Kerryon Johnson, I'm concerned about because of the history of injuries. I mean, he didn't even make it through his rookie year, and he was needed. I think that had he been around, you would have seen the last 5 games turn out a lot differently. This team could have been a lot better. And Kerryon Johnson shows glimpses, but a guy like that is going to be probably tasked with running the ball about 20 to 25 times a game. Can he be somebody that holds up? And right now, you got to have question marks. Can this guy be durable enough to withstand increased workload? Because Darrell Bevell, I'm not confident that Zach Zenner or somebody else is going to take the load off. No, I'm not confident at all. I feel like Kerryon Johnson's the most talented individual. He's the guy that's going to be tasked with at least getting the majority, the line share of the carries. Can he stay healthy, especially in the new age NFL where these defenders are huge and the offensive line has question marks? So I'm a little bit concerned, and that's one of the big areas that I'm concerned about with the Lions is Kerryon Johnson, the running back position.
So no concern for Darius Slay, maybe already reaching his ceiling, and maybe he's on that downward that downward trend. Now, he's 28. Going into this season, he's going to be 28. And looking at what Pro Football Focus has graded him, he had his worst season in 2013. 2014 was a bounce back year for him. He looked really good compared to 2013. And then monster jump in 2015. 2016, 2017 were his most productive seasons. He had a great year last year. And then this year, he's kind of slid back down. So just a bad season for Darius Slay. You're not concerned he'll bounce back. 2019 is going to be similar to what you got in 2016, 2017, you believe?
Exactly. I think that even at 28, he's going to be able to take to the defensive scheme of Matt Patricia. Because remember, it's bend, don't break. Mm-hmm. As long as you don't give up the big play, he's got the ability. And remember, there's been some strong leaders in the secondary that have helped. Glover Quinn, somebody that everyone respects and that everybody really thinks highly of, has taught Darius Slay how to be a real pro, and I think he'll carry that on. Any
concern with Glover Quinn possibly not being here and what that does to Darius Slay?
Unfortunately, Father Time gets the best of everybody, and I think Glover Quinn probably should retire. I think
he's there too.
Yeah, his productivity has dipped. I don't think he wants to start the process over again. But if another team makes a fair offer, everyone always listens, right?
Yeah. As far as Kerryon Johnson goes, similar thought process. Kerryon Johnson is a very good running back when he's healthy. Not ready to say he's going to be an elite running back. I thought he had a really good season last year once they figured out, like, oh, hey, we've got a running back who can run the ball and pick up more than 3 yards a carry. But his health has been an issue everywhere he's gone, through college and now his first year in the pros. Is he going to be able to bounce back, and is he going to be able to give you 16 productive games in the NFL? Now, I don't need you to go out there and rush for 100 yards every single game, but I need you to be productive. I need you to be a threat. I need you to catch balls out of the backfield. I need you to be able to block. I need you to be able to run and pick up third downs. I don't know if he's going to be healthy enough to give you what you want, just because he hasn't been able to show you that he's healthy enough to give you what you want for an entire season. He's got to take better care of his body this offseason and come in next season looking more almost
ready to handle the load.
Yeah,
16 games year after year.
He has to look like he's added probably 5 to 10, maybe even 15 pounds of muscle, because he needs that to protect the body, because running backs get beat up. It is a car accident every time they touch the ball. So he's got to come in much more prepared. I don't think he was prepared this year. And I think that was some of the apprehension that this coaching staff had with giving him the ball, because you've seen once he started carrying it more and more often, he started getting nicked up. Next thing you know, he's banged up, and then he doesn't come back. He only played 10 games last year. He started 7. That's nowhere near enough. Do you know what I'm saying? You need 16 full games where you're at least running the ball, being able to touch it. What do you think a good touch rate for Kerryon Johnson? It's 15 times a game? He's got to be able to touch it from the running back position?
16 to 19.
Okay, so you want more. He's got to be able to handle that. He's got to. And by not going out and getting a guy like a Kareem Hunt to bring it back full circle, you're now putting more stress and more load on him, because you don't have another running back here. Because like you said, Zach Zenner's not going to do it. I like what Zach Zenner brings, but he's not going to do it. He's not a high-end running back in this league. So you're now dumping more pressure and more stress on a guy who buckled underneath the pressure last year when his body broke down. So how do you expect to get that production? I'm not sure.
As the weeks ahead approach, we'll definitely take a look at what some draft needs are. Some people are now looking at the offense, wide receiver, tight end as being massive needs for the Lions. It'll be interesting to see what free agents the Lions are interested in targeting, whether it be a guy like Mark Ingram, Adrian Peterson. We'll look at that. We'll give it a deep dive in the coming weeks, because like I said, even though we're racing for third place, if that, we're racing for the playoffs, we still got to field a team that's going to be productive. And that schedule right now, as the Lions stand, looks like an 8-win team. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Lions approach 2019 and talent and acquisitions and free agency and the draft. It's going to be interesting because this is a massive, massive offseason for the Lions, and we'll be here to break it all down. All right, our first time out, we'll come back, second half of the podcast. We got to look at the Pistons, the moves that they made, how this shapes up the East, and what our expectations can be should the Pistons actually make the postseason. We'll talk about that next, after we talk about great sponsors, the Waza Flow soccer team and the Motor City Pawnbrokers. Adam, I want to tell you about the Detroit Waza Flow. The Detroit Waza Flow are the only professional soccer team in the state of Michigan. Now, this isn't the soccer you're used to. It's hard-hitting, high-flying, action-packed, indoor soccer that's fun for the entire family. Their last home game of the season is on Saturday, March 2nd at the Detroit City Fieldhouse here in Detroit. The weather's got you bored indoors anyway, so take the family out and enjoy the action while it lasts. You can find their information at wazaflow.com. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality brand-name new and pre-owned merchandise. With locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional values. For all information regarding the Motor City Pawnbrokers, go visit MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. That's MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. The finest pawnbrokers in Michigan, guaranteed. All right, cuz, for the Pistons, they made their moves, and I'm thankful they didn't go out and acquire Mike Conley. They weren't desperate. They didn't sacrifice a first-rounder. They didn't sacrifice Luke Kennard. They got rid of Henry Ellenson and Stanley Johnson, and apparently you realize that Stan Van Gundy just wasn't good enough in terms of his draft picks to sustain any level of credibility or success, and he's actually really hurt the organization and what he's done. So this organization now is tasked with trying to figure out what the hell to do. So Tom Gores truly believes that Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond are guys to build around. Okay, whether or not you want to argue that, obviously at Detroit Podcast is the place to do it. We've had that argument. You also have to realize what they're doing. And this is the plan. They want to build around these guys. And what do they want to build around? And how do they want to build around these guys? By somehow or another finding guys that can shoot the three, that can help out with Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond and their skill set. Reggie Jackson has emerged. His play of late has been better. You brought in guys like Wayne Ellington, Thon Maker, and you kind of look at that squad and you realize, okay, they're going younger. They're trying to get guys they can control, like Svi, who wasn't given really a great opportunity by the Lakers. And so that's what they're trying to do. They're at step one of trying to ease their cap problems and realizing, you know what, the East is garbage. It's trash. So in the end, they didn't make a move that was going to really help them advance in the postseason. So the way I'm looking at it is this. Is it great to build this way? No. It's actually going to hurt your draft opportunities. I think that, you didn't really have a chance to get up there in the top five because you won a lot of games and you're going to be around a 500 team. So realizing what they're trying to build towards, I'm okay with them entering into the postseason. It's been a long time since they've been there. But here's the problem, okay? Does it really help the squad if they enter in as the 7th or 8th seed and get swept out? How does that really help morale? How's it going to help morale if the national TV audience comes in and you got TNT or you got people peeking in and you got a 3/4 empty LCA for a playoff game? Because even though those moves were made, that game that took place earlier this week, oh my goodness, bro, there was nobody there. And you realize, wow, it was Pistons Wizards, and there was literally maybe 3,000 people in the joint. And there were people posting pictures, and you're like, wow, it's that bad. The fans have given up. They don't go. Even if they make the push to the playoffs, I don't think an overwhelming amount of fans will believe. Now, the one thing they can do is if they move up to the 6th or 5th seed and they have an opportunity maybe to play a team like Toronto, a rivalry can be built up. What they would have to do to start the process of maybe getting some fans on board is get to the postseason and win a couple games. Win your home games. Maybe you go on the road the first couple games and you lose, but then you come back to the LCA, and despite a lack of support, a lack of people really caring, if you get those W's and you maybe get to 2-2, people might get invested, and maybe people will say, you know what, maybe having a bunch of Toronto fans here cheering and yelling will encourage the Detroit Pistons to actually play and try. So I do think the Pistons, it's on them to actually shut people up. They have to shut up guys like us. They have to shut up the national media that say the Pistons are irrelevant. And I think that's where they got to go, is it's got to be us against the world mentality. I just don't think that, Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson can sustain this for a long period of time. And remember, they're playing the Knicks, the Wizards, the Heat in Charlotte, the garbage of the East. And you're going to expect them to go out there and you're going to expect them to go out there and compete with the likes of Boston and Philadelphia. It's an embarrassment to think that way. But to try to be positive, I like that Reggie's turned it around, and I like the fact that Andre has picked it up a little bit, showing more energy, and is now trying to help the Pistons squad out.
But if the Pistons are able to come in, lose a couple games on the road, but then during this playoff run, come back home and win 2 games, isn't it too late by then? Isn't it too late for what Tom Gores wants? Tom Gores wants this team in the playoffs so he can get those gates. And I think you're right. Nobody cares about this team. The team's essentially an afterthought. When we talk about the Pistons on the radio, you know what we talk about? We talk about them losing and how it's more beneficial for them to lose now.
The tanking, yeah.
Than to sit there and get into the playoffs. It makes no sense for this team to make a playoff run right now. It does you no good. This team is so maxed out with cap space that it is hard to go out, bring in an impactful free agent. It's hard to go out and add pieces to this team that's going to make it better. Now, as far as the trade deadline moves go, I'm okay with it. I really wish you'd have got something that would help you in this draft. I'm glad they didn't go get Mike Conley. That would have just been stupid. Absolutely stupid. But you need to find your next point guard. You need to find a shooting guard who can make his own shot. That's what you need on this team. I hear a lot of people talk about how they want Zion Williamson for this team. Why? How many centers do you need on this team? Like honestly, Zion is a more athletic Andre Drummond. That's what he is. That's exactly what he is. And not a hot take here. That's what he is. He's a guy who needs to play with his back to the basket, needs to play within 5 to 10 feet of the rim, and the guy is, like I said, a little bit more athletic than Andre is. He can jump out of a gym. Did you see him go to block that 3-point shot? You never see an effort like that from Andre, but that's what he is. He is a more versatile Andre Drummond. So what are you doing? What are you going to do with Andre? Nobody wants that contract. Nobody wants him. So if you go get a guy like Zion, that's not going to really help. And I'm trying not to go off on a tangent here, but
no, here the biggest issue
my point is you need to go get somebody who's going to either facilitate the ball or put the ball in the basket.
Right now, the Pistons have a bunch of role players, and they're not marketable. You got the 3 guys with talent, and then you got a bunch of guys that are basically guys on scrap heap.
Who's the 3 guys with talent?
Reggie, Blake, and Andre.
Really? Reggie? You start this list with Reggie.
He's averaging 20 points a game now. He looks a little bit, but he looks a little bit healthier and is contributing.
I don't think Reggie's one of the big 3. I think Reggie's part of the problem here. The thing about this team too is you're not going to have the flexibility as far as salary cap goes until like 2020.
Yeah.
2021. That's when a lot of these big contracts come off the book, and you're going to be left with Blake and Andre.
No, but I want to steer it this way though. Look, we realize what they should do,
right?
But they're not doing it. Is there an avenue where you could get excited about the Pistons being in the playoffs? Would they have to win the first round and shock you to get you excited? That was what it would take.
That's what it would take.
Win a round, upset the Bucks, the Raptors, Celtics, or Sixers.
Because
upset.
I don't see this team being able to compete with any of those teams. I really don't. I just did some quick math, and against teams like the Bucks, the Raptors, the Celtics, not counting the Celtics game that could change everything that's going to take place on Wednesday, they're 2-9. The Bucks feast on the Pistons. The 76ers, Joel Embiid is so far in Andre Drummond's head, it's disgusting. One of those wins was that emotional win for Dwayne Casey against the Raptors. That was that first one where he played them. And that was a big game for Dwayne and for the guys on this team because they got up for it. Against the Celtics, they've got to win as well, but that's one. They're like 1-3, might be 1-4 after Wednesday night's game. So I don't see this team being able to compete with the likes of any of those teams. If the Pistons get the Bucks, it will be a sweep because
The Sixers could destroy the Pistons.
Yes.
4 games where, I'll say this, if they play the Sixers, there'll probably be 4 losses with double digits or more.
Yeah.
Each one. Dude, Tobias Harris comes in, looks like fits in like a glove. It's dropping 20 points or more already.
Do you realize what the Clippers got for Blake Griffin? Like, that Blake Griffin trade set them up so well for everything in the future. They got so many first and second round picks over the next couple of years. On top of that,
they're set up.
Yeah, it worked out great for the Clippers.
No, I respect what you're saying. Show us, Pistons. Go out there and compete. Show us what you can do. And I think that's where most of the fans are. They'll passively watch if they make the postseason, but we just hope that doesn't turn into an ass-kicking, because that would demoralize everybody. That would really make everybody frustrated even more. And so that's why I'm kind of hoping that, they try and even don't make it, because, you can sell that you tried. It doesn't happen. You get yourself maybe the 12th pick and you turn it around and you finally draft people that can contribute. That's the name of the game, is in the draft, find people that can contribute. And unfortunately, the Pistons are telling you, based on their moves, their cap flexibility is quite bad. They have to wait for contracts like Reggie Jackson to go away, and then you can start to acquire talent. And that's what it's going to take, filling out the roster with guys that can, somewhat contribute via the three-point shot and help out the guys. And that's just where it's at. They have to go out there with the notion of shock the world. And if it happens, great. And I think it would be something that fans would rejoice in seeing. But I don't like to be, racing to the bottom, and I don't want to be fodder for the Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, and Sixers, because they're trying to sell you that they can compete. I just don't see it. I don't believe it. They don't have enough scoring. Even with Wayne Ellington, obviously he comes in, goes 0 for 7, obviously his first game with the Pistons, and doesn't look great. I just don't think that you can sell a guy like Thon Maker, who averages 3 points a game, and a guy like Wayne Ellington.
But he had that block his first game.
It doesn't matter. It's against a bad opponent. So you look at it and you say, you know what? Just try your absolute best to compete, and maybe, just maybe, if you can ride the coattails of Blake Griffin, if he stays healthy, maybe you can get a couple wins in the playoffs. But it's just, like I said, something that I don't think is going to excite a lot of fans, especially if you're fodder and you get swept out. It does nothing.
No, it
nothing
does
at all.
Absolutely nothing. I was trying to find what the Clippers got for that whole deal, and I can't find it now. Anyways, I had it all written down. I had it all figured out one day. Anyways, no, man, you're spot on. The Pistons have to go out there. They have to show us that all these moves, that everything, bringing Blake here wasn't a huge mistake, and maxing out the cap, and not going out, and some people really wanted Mike Conley to come here. I don't know why. But not going out and getting him and trading away pieces to get other pieces, it was the right move. You have to prove that by winning a playoff game if you're going to get there. Because, again, we just talked about it. Does you no good as an organization to make the playoffs. Does you absolutely no good. Doesn't help you. And I don't want to hear about how young players need to learn how to win in the playoffs. No, they don't. Doesn't matter. The team's not going anywhere. You're not going to beat the Bucks. You're not going to beat the 76ers. And you know what all these teams have in common? All these teams. You know what they have in common? They've all lost for a long time, and they did it through the draft. That's what they have in common. Like, you remember the Bucks? The Bucks used to suck, right? They hit on Giannis, which is great. Anyways, look at the 76ers. 76ers, great squad, right? Great squad. And how'd the 76ers get there? They openly tanked.
Openly.
They were like, hey, guys, if you didn't know, we're going to let you know. We're losing all these games because we want the draft picks.
Yeah, before we get out of here, I just want to say this. I hope the Sixers do get to the finals so that we can shut people up that say, show me a team that tanking works for. And so that's what we have to do, is find teams that actually have success tanking so we can convince some of the fans that don't believe to believe. Great podcast recording, sir. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this last hour. We appreciate all those that download this podcast. You can follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. You've just downloaded, listened to the latest edition of the Doc and Jock Podcast, episode 289 in the books. Great job, sir.
Awesome job. Pistons, keep losing. Figure it out. You get there.
Race to the bottom, people.
That's right, baby.
It's not over yet, so you can ask me that one next week.
Go blue, bitch.
This was locker room talk.
Second deck.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me.